If you were openly offered medication containing products from horse urine, would you be happy to take it? This is the reality for millions of women and other individuals globally who take hormone replacement therapies, or HRT, containing estrogens extracted from the urine of pregnant mares. My name is Rebecca Davidson, and this video aims to explore the pregnant mare urine, or PMU industry, its positive and negative ethical impacts, the stakeholders involved, and potential solutions and improvements to this vast industry. This video contains images, videos, and content that may be distressing. Prime was originally developed in Canada as an HRT when several pharmaceutical companies combined and formed Wyeth in 1941. All ranchers involved in PMU farming entered a contract with Wyeth, which is now Pfizer since 2009, which requires a standard production volume annually. By the early 20th century, there had been major advances in the understanding of endocrinology. Initial collection of estrogens came from the placenta or the umbilical cord, then pregnant women, before it was concluded that the urine of pregnant mares could be used. The exact composition of the collected substrate is still widely unknown, but it is reported that a mixture of 10 estrogens are extracted from the mare's urine. The exact collection method has also evolved, and during the current collection method, mares wear a loose-fitting, lightweight pouch, which is held in position by a system of pulleys. This is also known as a boot. The horses are used to collect varying substrates for use in pharmaceuticals. This is due to their large size and ease of collection. The samples are therefore large in volume, and it was thought that horses were easy to maintain and handle. The mares involved are farmed until they are no longer able to maintain a pregnancy, often resulting in them being sent to slaughter. When discussing the overall welfare of the mares used in these farms, the 5 domains, formerly known as the 5 freedoms, should be considered. Each of the 4 physical or functional domains shown all link to the final mental domain and should be maintained to ensure a positive welfare state. I will now explore each domain and relate them to the issues found within the PMU industry. Mares in the P line are given limited access to water. This is due to a more concentrated urine producing a higher yield product. However, it is important to recognise that dehydration can have adverse effects such as organ failure, elevated heart rate, and a lower food intake, which could lead to lack of sufficient nutrition. PMU mares are housed in large barns for prolonged periods of time. It has been reported that waste removal and bedding amounts may be inefficient, leading to an unclean environment and poor hygiene. Mares commonly suffer from injuries such as sores and swellings in the legs and joints, and sores from the device. It has also been reported that mares have poor hoof condition. Lack of movement can also lead to lameness issues. It is required that mares have adequate treatment, but this is not clearly defined. The exact definition of a horse's natural behaviour varies, depending on the education level and culture. The mares used in the PMU industry are housed either tied up and/or with limited movement for 5 to 6 months of the year. The mares in the P line are often unable to lie down, which can lead to problems in itself. It is argued, due to group housing, there is some access to social interaction. However, due to confinement and tethering, this is very limited. The mares are impregnated through artificial insemination on a large scale, which is an ethical issue in itself. Due to the mares being repeatedly impregnated, the resultant foals are merely seen as a byproduct. Similarly to the dairy industry, female foals are able to enter the production line, whereas males are seen to have little value. They have previously been slaughtered straight after birth or sent to a feedlot to fatten up. More recently, incentives have been offered to use purebred mares and stallions, which will produce better quality foals to be sold at auction. Although the number of foals sent to slaughter has reduced, the true scale of this issue is difficult to measure. The exact age and understanding of weaning is also an area of contention in this industry. Foals are often removed before the recommended age. The process is also abrupt rather than gradual. Not allowing the foals to be habituated to being removed can have adverse physical and mental effects. This is all without potential harm in undisclosed areas caused by abuse, unskilled workers, and other health conditions. Issues in each of these domains result in overall suffering for the mares and foals, which lead to a major welfare concern.
There are many stakeholders involved in this industry, each with their own ethical viewpoints. This section aims to explore the individuals involved and why they hold their
Modern developments have
perspectives.
seen an increase in the use of estrogens to aid the gender affirmation process. Transgender females take estrogen to help aid transitioning, of which the leading source is Premarin. It is used due to being effective in enhancing female characteristics. The effectiveness of this drug may help to reduce gender dysphoria, and therefore, hopefully, have some positive impact on the suicide rates associated with this issue. The access to Premarin does vary, however, it has led to some increase in the demand. There is also little research into what the effects will be of Premarin on individuals who were male at birth and still in the process of transitioning. A contractarian viewpoint uses the idea that morality is based on agreements, thus forming a contract based on an individual's own interests. Cooperation often makes tasks easier, and agreed obligations should form a contract. This contract can either be literal or implied, usually as a financial benefit or an improvement in public perception. Some believe that animals cannot enter these contracts. In the PMU industry, a farmer or ranch owner would likely hold this view. They have a contract with the pharmaceutical company to produce a high-yield product. There's also a contract here between the consumer and the industry. They also have a form contract to provide basic levels of care for the horses in their care. However, this relationship only occurs if the animal has a purpose for the human. In foal sales, they would argue that they have a right to sell the foals, and after that, they are no longer contracted to care about where they end up. However, a full contract cannot be formed in this industry due to the horse not being able to agree. Another concept that's related to this stakeholder and others is anthropocentrism. This revolves around the idea that a human is the most central and significant individual. This can be used to justify the poor treatment of any species if there's a benefit to the superior species, which in this case, the humans. In the PMU industry, those who have knowledge of the issues in the farming process but feel as though this is justified as it has major benefits to many humans. A utilitarian believes that the ends can justify the means when the outcome provides the most good for the most individuals. This concept is still applied to instances where actions may have an adverse effect on an individual, depending on the number of individuals involved who will benefit. This theory is widely applied to scientific research using animals. When initiating the research, it is important to consider how many animals the research will harm, how much it will harm them, how many people or animals will benefit, and how much they will benefit. This therefore applies to invasive research to cure diseases, but not for testing cosmetics. A consumer in the PMU industry, likely a menopausal woman, is an example of this viewpoint. For some, the number of mares used and foals killed is justifiable by the number of women and other users who benefit from the industry. Symptoms that have the ability to adversely affect many aspects of a woman's life are reduced, and their needs come before those of the horses. A deontological viewpoint is often thought of as the opposite of utilitarian. This uses the basis that the end does not justify the means, regardless of the positive outcome. It is also thought to be wrong to lie, and this will erode any relationships that are already formed. They do believe that some forgiveness can be given for causing harm if the initial action was good. The ethical theory forms the basis of animal rights and is often thought of as an old viewpoint. They believe that we have no right to kill animals, even for meat, use them for sport, or use them in experiments. An animal rights activist would argue that no matter the benefit of the PMU industry to others, the treatment of the horses involved cannot be justified. They would also say that the industry not being transparent about what they are doing is wrong. If activists also hold a respect for nature view, they would state that horses should be left in their wild, natural habitat. They would also have issue with the involvement of artificial insemination. These ethical perspectives vary greatly in individuals, and some people hold a combination of views. The way in which they behave may also be affected by other concepts, which are known as barriers to ethical behavior. An example of this is culture. The treatment of animals and welfare standards varies greatly depending on the location and culture, with their sentience being a major consideration. This affects which industries are able to function in specific countries due to acceptance. The PMU industry occurs in several countries, including Canada, China, the US, and Iceland. These countries do not necessarily have the best animal rights system shown by the World Animal Protection Site, which uses varying factors to assess a country through a grading system. The majority of PMU farming took place in Canada, however more recently the industry has moved more of its business to China, where welfare and inspections are more lax due to there being a relational legal system. Other factors that affect individuals include the following. Cognitive dissonance, which is the process where two contradictory views cause discomfort. An individual can internally justify a behavior and avoid confrontation by using the information that justifies the behavior. If someone believes that one person can't make changes, they are able to deflect moral agency and action to form a consensus that if others are doing it, it can't be wrong, and particularly when large numbers benefit. Due to the discussed benefits of the products of the PMU industry, it is important to determine whether it is feasible to abolish the industry or an overall improvement of welfare would be enough. When discussing potential solutions or improvements, they can be separated into two main areas: the farming process itself and the consumer and its resultant product. Changing the management method will help to improve the overall welfare of the horses. A study in Australia in 2005 investigated an alternative housing method, allowing horses to have turnout during the day and being kept in small pens grouped overnight. One group wore the urine collecting device, while the control had the same management but no device fitted. No negative physiological impacts were determined in cortisol levels and heart rate in comparison to the control. The time budgets were also similar, except for a decrease in time spent lying down. It was determined that no significant negative impact would occur if the devices were worn for 5 nights for 6 to 7 weeks. However, there's been little research since this, and it is definitely not a perfect solution. This could potentially reduce workload for those caring for the mares. However, the yield of products still needs to be sufficient for the farmer. There are also options to reduce foal wastage. There have already been some improvements in breeding stock to make foals more desirable and valuable, as well as rescue sanctuaries getting involved. Another novel solution is the use of sexed semen. This is now commonly used within the dairy industry to ensure female offspring are produced, thus ruling out male offspring. It would need to be further investigated as to whether this is financially beneficial for farmers and suppliers. However, if sales and demand reduced, there would need to be some support for farmers and workers to reduce loss of income, potentially offering alternative employment. Human behavior change is a key concept that can involve varying methods. It aims to understand why specific behaviors occur, then empower individuals to educate or take their own actions. Further support and understanding may allow women to understand and manage menopausal symptoms more effectively. Support and advice from services such as Over the Bloody Moon are now becoming more widely available. Changes in areas such as diet are also discussed as a way to reduce symptoms and maintain the body's overall health. There are also alternatives derived from plant-based or synthetics that could be offered. The treatment and management of horses in the PMU industry often causes immense repeated long-term suffering. There have been some recent improvements which have had some impact, and when compared to other species and industries, it can be argued that this industry is heavily monitored. However, the industry's recent expansion in China has led to deteriorating welfare conditions, with use in the transgender community leading to an increase in demand. For changes to be made, there needs to be some benefit to all stakeholders in areas such as cost, time, and suffering. There is no easy solution, so combination may be the best outcome. But any variations in demand should not negatively impact the welfare of the horses involved. Horses and other species are not only farmed to produce HRTs, so the theories and ethics applied to this topic should be considered in varying industries. Changes must be made to the industry, and knowing what is being consumed should surely be a priority to the public.